Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to another NFL 2022 draft top 5. This time going over the top 5 absolute worst NFL picks over the 2022 draft. This is just my personal list on 5 different picks that I thought were just completely terrible for certain teams. I'm going to kick it off with a few honorable mentions. The first honorable mention, I'm going to go with Boye Mafe, the 40th overall pick by the Seattle Seahawks. I thought the Seahawks had a really bad draft, except for the Kenneth Walker pick at 41. I thought that was decent. But Boye Mafe, this is a guy, he's got bust written all over him. They draft him due to his overall traits, not due to his production in college. This guy is really raw. Taking him at 40th overall, to me, is a major reach. I know some people thought Mafe could have gone in the first round. I still don't like the pick at number 40 overall. He is an honorable mention for one of the worst draft picks in 2022. Another really bad pick, in my opinion, was Tyquan Thornton. And this one's a little polarizing because speed does kill, and it is Bill Belichick. But number 50 overall, that's a major reach for Tyquan Thornton for me personally, the speedster from Baylor. We understand he ran a 4.28 at the combine. And again, speed does kill. You can't teach it. But this dude is really raw, not a ton of production at Baylor. Taking him 50th, late second round seems like a big reach in my opinion. And then my final honorable mention for worst draft picks, it's going to be Kenyon Green, the 15th overall pick out of Texas A&M, taken by the Houston Texans. I also thought the Derek Stingley Jr., pick at number 3 overall was a decent reach, especially with Ahmad Gardner sitting on the board. If you want to go cornerback, you want to be, Ahmad Gardner is just the way safer option, the way better option than Derek Stingley Jr. Derek Stingley Jr. is not going to be on this list because he does have elite overall traits and elite potential. But this 15th overall pick, Kenyon Green, horrible value for an offensive guard. I think both Cole Strange, the guard from Chattanooga, along with Zion Johnson are going to be better pros in terms of offensive guards out of the 2022 draft. So those are my top 3 honorable mentions. Let's get to the actual list. Coming in at number 5, Velus Jones Jr., the receiver from Tennessee, who went number 71 overall. So it's not like, the Bears spent a really high pick on him. But when you look at the context of this pick, the Bears desperately need to help Justin Fields out. You have 2 early second-round picks. There's so many receivers. Alec Pierce is on the board. George Pickens is on the board. You don't draft either of them. You go with 2 defenders. You go with 2 defensive backs. Then you're sitting there, middle of the 3rd round, and you draft Velus Jones Jr. instead of David Bell. That should be a war crime. That should be a war crime in and of itself, drafting Velus Jones Jr. in front of David Bell. Somebody save Justin Fields. Oh, my God. I thought the Jaquan Brisker pick was good. I understand it. But if you're going to take one defender, you have to get Justin Fields a weapon, not Velus Jones Jr. If you've got number 71, David Bell is right there. Just draft him. He's so much better. He's going to have such a better NFL career. I feel for Justin Fields. We're watching a train wreck. We're watching a car crash happen live. What's going to happen to Justin Fields with Velus Jones Jr., Byron Pringle? They do have Darryl Mooney, but still, it's just not enough help for a young quarterback. It's the 71 overall pick, so it's not like they invested a first-round pick. That's why this is only number 5 on my list of worst picks. But Velus Jones Jr. from Tennessee at number 71, especially in the context, you need to help Justin Fields. And the best you can do, you've got Trey McBride on the board, with one of those second-round picks. They end up with Velus Jones. Oh, my goodness. He comes in at number 5. Number 4, very similar context. The number 34 overall pick, Christian Watson is my number 4 worst pick. The Packers, 2 first-round picks. You could have packaged both of those picks to get a Garrett Wilson, to get a Jameson Williams. You move up. They don't do that. They take Quay Walker, who, by the way, is going to be on my list as well. And then they take Devontae Wyatt. I like Devontae Wyatt, but then the Packers are sitting there in the second round and they're saying, we have a genius idea. Let's trade up. Let's trade up to number 34 and take Christian Watson. They were better off remaining where they were, just taking Alec Pierce or George Pickens, but they move up and they get Christian Watson. I understand he's 6'4". He ran a really fast 40. He's a unique athlete. This guy drops everything. He drops everything. He's from North Dakota State. It's nothing against North Dakota State or FCS schools, but Christian Watson, I have never been high on Christian Watson. I have never been high on Sky Moore. I said before the second round that the Packers are such a bad, inept franchise. I guarantee you they'll draft either Sky Moore or Christian Watson. And sure enough, not only do they draft Christian Watson, they do me one better. They say, we're going to waste assets trading back up to 34 to draft Christian Watson. Oh my goodness. Worst draft picks, number 4 is Christian Watson. He was the 34th overall pick. The Packers traded up to get him. He is a receiver from North Dakota State. Moving on to number 3. This one hurts me. It really does. But I'm going to go Kenny Pickett. And if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you got to be looking at where Malik Willis went at 86 and being like, yeah, maybe we reached a little bit for Kenny Pickett. Understanding the context, some NFL scouts had Kenny Pickett as their number 1 quarterback. Some NFL scouts had Malik Willis as their number 1 quarterback. I had Malik Willis way ahead of Kenny Pickett. I do not like Kenny Pickett at all. But just even in that context, to see Malik Willis fall to 86 and the Steelers spend the 20th overall pick on Kenny Pickett, that's bad value. Like, if you're the Steelers, you're like, what is going on? Like, I thought Malik Willis would have been gone in the early second round. It would have been better value for the Steelers to wait and just take Malik Willis late second, early third, instead of investing a first-round pick on Kenny Pickett. Originally, I had Kenny Pickett 4th overall. I had to move him up to number 3 because of how far Malik Willis fell. That, to me, that's just crazy. The Titans getting the value at number 86 overall versus the Steelers drafting Kenny Pickett 20th overall. That is, like, if I'm a Steelers fan, I'm like, I'm not liking this pick now. Now that I see Malik Willis was going to be there at pick number 80, like, it's very interesting. I don't like Kenny Pickett anyways. I think he's going to be a bust. I think there is no elite attribute about him. That's why he's number 3 on my list. But another thing to note, Malik Willis, the other known quarterback whom some NFL scouts had in front of Kenny Pickett, was there at pick number 86. So it's like there's way better value with Malik Willis than Kenny Pickett at pick number 20, if that makes sense. Moving on to number 2. We're going to go with the 22nd overall pick. It is going to be Quay Walker. I have no clue. This is one of those first-round picks. You look at it, it's a complete train wreck. You can already tell from right now, this pick is going to be a bust. You know it. We all know it. Quay Walker, 22, very little production. Nakobe Dean somehow falling to 83. Nakobe Dean, I guarantee everyone Nakobe Dean will have a better NFL career than Quay Walker. And I don't think it's some hot take. People are like, Quay Walker was a first-round pick. So what? Quay Walker was being mocked mid to late second round. The Packers and their horrible evaluations take him at number 22. Oh my God. Oh, I do not understand. Quay Walker, not elite production. Nakobe Dean would have been a much better pick, but because of the attributes, because of his traits, we will get him out, we will use those in the NFL. That's why Nakobe Dean fell. It's so ridiculous. Just draft the best football player, man. Nakobe Dean is just a better football player than Quay Walker. I'm sorry. He's going to prove it every Sunday at the NFL level. He'll prove it. Trust me. Quay Walker, come on, guys. The Packers, you are killing me. Quay Walker comes in at number 22. He was drafted 22nd overall. They used one of their first-round picks on him. And again, I'm fine with the Devontae Wyatt pick at 28. Devontae Wyatt's a good player. I like him as one of the top defensive tackles in this draft, along with Travis Jones. So that pick I'm fine with. But the Packers, taking Quay Walker at 22, trading up for Christian Watson. Oh, my God, what a bad franchise. Oh. And then number 1, guys, Who else can it has to? I am forced to. The number one worst pick in the 2022 NFL draft was the number one overall pick, Travon Walker. And like I've said this several times, you know it's bad when the first thing they say about you, the first thing that Louis Riddick says about him is the defensive line coach is going to have to earn his money coaching this dude up. When you have the number one overall pick and you're talking about a player, you should not be saying it. That's a warning in and of itself. I think Louis Riddick and Mel Kiper were itching to call this dude a potential bust, but you're not going to do it because you don't want to ruin the kid's moment. They wanted him to have his moment. They were like, well, he's got a lot to work on. You know, this is a guy, very little production. They're drafting players based off of traits, based off of measurables, not based off of production. Travon Walker completely disappeared in several huge games at Georgia. This is a guy, I don't understand it. I really don't understand it, and it's the typical Jaguars, typical picks. I liked the Jaguars' other first-round pick, Devin Lloyd at pick 27. That was a decent pick, but Travon Walker at number 1, I am forced to put him here. I have to put him as the worst pick because he went number 1 overall. I'm not saying he's the worst player in the entire draft, but because you're spending the number 1 overall pick, just take Aiden Hutchinson, guys. Just take Akeem Ekwonu to help protect Trevor Lawrence. It's simple. Either one of those guys. Either one. Even Evan Neal. We will settle for Evan Neal. But no. You've got to take Travon Walker, and what an absolute unnecessary... When you talk unnecessary risks, you've got the number 1 overall pick. Aiden Hutchinson is a sure thing. Akeem Ekwonu, he's not a sure thing, but he's close and he's got crazy potential. Evan Neal is a sure thing to be a good offensive tackle in the NFL. You're taking unnecessary risks, drafting someone based on measurables, not actual production. And I understand measurables are a big part. It's not that I hate guys who run fast or anything like that, but with the number 1 overall pick, I cannot stress it enough, it's an unnecessary risk when you've got other pass rushers who are sure things. Sure things. So guys, those are my top 5 overall. Once again, a few honorable mentions. Boye, Mafe at pick number 40. The Seahawks have really struggled drafting. I also didn't like their first round pick, Charles Cross, at number 9 overall. Tyquan Thornton at number 50. That's a major reach. Kenyon Green, the offensive guard, a major reach out of A&M by Houston. I thought Houston had a very bad draft with Derek Stingley at number 3 instead of Ahmad Gardner, and then Kenyon Green at number 15. And then my top 5, Velus Jones Jr. I know he was only 71st overall, but in the context of needing to get Justin Fields help, you don't accomplish that at all. He comes in at number 5. Number 4, Christian Watson, a Packers special. Number 3, Kenny Pickett, just horrible value compared to the Malik Willis, going 86 overall. That's crazy to me. At number 2, Quay Walker, and then number 1, Travon Walker. Those are the top 5. Walker and Walker, and they both went to Georgia. Very interesting there. Very interesting. But that's just my top 5 worst picks of the 2022 NFL Draft. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.